All right. Whoa.
Well, happy
Huh?
Halloween.
Is that Poncho?
This is Frank. You gotta go. Where's the screen? Boo, 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 boo.
Hey,
Hi.
it's Toby.
What's
What's
going on,
going
pal?
on? The same old, same old. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy Halloween to you,
Oh, yeah,
to
that's right. It's
everybody,
Halloween. What?
and to everybody.
Oh, yeah, and to everybody else. This is kind of the conclusion, not conclusion, but because we'll probably hit some more scary movies later, but
Hope so.
um, the conclusion of the our kind of Oktoberfest of scary movies. This one's Toby. Oh wait, I didn't write that.
Oktoberfest.
Yeah, this one's Toby's suggestion, which I had never seen. Toby had seen, and he highly recommended.
I
Um,
highly recommended this one. We
yeah,
talked about it in an earlier pod too.
yeah, and yeah, oh, that's right, we did, huh? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And this one was great. I absolutely, um, turned it on with the expectation of like, well, hopefully it's just not like some sort of retread or kind of you know and to be fair, I think it does borrow from a lot of horror movies, but it's really I think it really does a great job in kind of what's the word, it kind of um embraces all these kind of horror film tropes, but at the same time it kind of subverts them at the same time, and that's what the thing that I really liked about it, because it brought kind of it paid homage to all those movies. There's a couple of scenes in there that are directly flashback to some 80s horror movies, but it also kind of brings it up to date with the cinematography and the acting and kind of the pacing of the movie. That's what really kind of gets it, and that's something I want to touch on. But first, Toby, what made you pick this movie?
So when we were talking, and I was just trying to think of how it came up in our conversation, I think it was probably the Nightmare on Elm Street when we talked about the the monster that is um, the Jason Voorhees of. That's why I gravitated towards Jason more than I gravitated towards Freddy, because Freddy was more, he had creepy lines in the first one, and then he became kind of a caricature of himself. But this is just straight, it follows,
Right.
and it changes. The whatever this is it changes, and it's walking towards you wherever you are. You can run, but you can't hide, and that creeps me the f
Yeah.
out, man. And so I really gravitated towards that. I just think that with the notion that there's really not a lot you can do,
Yeah.
but buy time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for those people who have not seen this, just in a 30-second, there is a demon creature, unclear what this thing is it's like a game of tag. And once you are the victim, you become the victim by having sex with somebody who was the victim. You get this curse, if you will, passed along to you, and only you and people, as it turns out, other people who are also cursed that are part of this line
Yeah.
can
This
also see,
lineage.
the lineage can also see it, which
Yeah.
the first few times I watched it, I thought, because everyone's like, what are you scared of? There's nothing out here. There's nothing. But our main character, Jay, is, well, the movie starts with a girl running, fleeing her house. And the music starts dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's um, the way the cinematography is. This is a gritty, kind of grimy no real time. It's not clear what year this is happening. It's
Yeah.
in Detroit, which is
Yeah.
kind of in Detroit from 20. Well, the movie's filmed in 2014.
Right.
So it's kind of taken from that kind of 8 Mile gritty, grimy. Everything's kind of the colors aren't really right. Uh, you're set in a world where they set the tone very early with it's bleak.
Yeah.
There's a hopelessness about it. Um, there is a sense of something looming right
Yeah.
from the
That's a big
beginning,
sense. Yeah.
and that's really scary to me. And every year, Christina and I would watch it. This is one of those, at Christmas time, you always watch Elf. At
Yeah.
Halloween time, for the last 10 years, we've always watched It Follows. And went into it, obviously, remember the trailer. Um, and everybody's just kind of, you don't see what it is that it is following. We just
Right.
talked about the thing that's you don't nobody knows there's a paranoia aspect to it. There's just all of these emotions that are that build up in this.
Yeah.
The chase is on, and the question that you are asked almost immediately when she gets the curse passed on to her by having sex in the car with this guy that she's been on dates with. He's kind of looking over his shoulder when they're kind of out on their date, and they play the game called the switch game. I believe
Oh,
what
that's
they
right.
call the trade game. The trade
Yeah, in
game.
line, yeah.
And who would you trade places with? You got to guess who. I'm looking around at everybody. She actually asks this question. She plays this trade game with the boy, who's it turns out his name is Jeff. We don't find that out until halfway through the movie, because he's trying to get rid of this thing. He's got
Right.
ulterior motives. He's trying to get
Yeah.
rid of this thing. Um, he does her actually a huge favor, which clearly nobody else has really done. He had to figure this out for himself. The way he does it is he puts a rag over her mouth after they have sex. He puts a rag over her mouth. I don't know if it's chloroform or whatever it is. And then she wakes up and she's tied to a wheelchair. And he wheels her over and he says, this thing's walking towards you. I had it. I just gave it to you. You got to figure out a way to pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah.
And they can both see this thing walking. It's a woman, a naked woman, is walking towards this empty building, this vacant building, and he shows her that he's like, you're gonna think you're crazy. Everyone's gonna think you're crazy. I mean, they outlines it right from the beginning.
Go
You
ahead.
don't get these favors oftentimes by you're told what's happening right from the beginning, and there's
Yeah.
still nothing you can do about it. Your thoughts?
Well, oh, God, I got an itch in my nose. I think what builds the suspense and the kind of dread that kind of inhibits all these scenes is the pace of it. It's kind of this movie that shows you kind of the minutia of of a conversation and or whatever it is they're doing. I think at the beginning, what she swimming or
Yeah.
something, and
Yep.
there's all these shots of suburban life, and this girl who's obviously in some sort of college and
Mm-hmm.
has a younger sister, and her sister has friends, and they're always over, and
Mm-hmm.
the thing, and it's kind of the setup, and this is what I mean by well, not mean, but it harkens back to kind of The Exorcist. Now, I'm not gonna compare this movie with The Exorcist, but what it does have in a similar fashion is the kind of setup to a lot of what's going to happen later in the movie, which makes that payoff. It pays it off pretty well. and it makes the horror, the suspense, or the creepiness of it just raise it up a notch. And that's what I loved about this movie. And it also reminded me what makes a great movie is that, you know, back to The Exorcist, which is that the evil or the whatever the horror of life is kind of, it's mixed in, and it's in the mundane, so you kind of live your life, and you're going to the store, or you're going to a movie, or you're going out to eat, and all of a sudden this thing is like happening, and it allows the viewer to kind of develop a relationship with these characters. And then so when the stakes get raised, you're in there with them because you spent all this time with them, and you've kind of you get to know them. And that for me was the big thing I noticed really early on. Whoops. That I noticed, and that got me into the movie was it had, going back to the cinematography, it has this kind of dreamlike quality
Yeah.
with the way, not only the way it's shot, but the way it's edited. A lot of these crossfades, one scene cross fading into another scene, as opposed to just hard cuts, and it gives this thing of like, kind of like the Nightmare on Elm Street, where you're in this. I just felt like everything was a dream. Like something could pop out of the tree, or something could pop out from the back seat, or something. There was this thing of like uncertainty that that they had as well, because they don't know what they're dealing with. And so when a movie can kind of tie in the overall feeling, and kind of the viewers kind of feeling that as well, I think that's when you have, that's the recipe for a great horror movie. And that's why I like this movie. I loved it. There's a few things that I have questions about, but overall, for the most part, it kind of reignited my interest in independent cinema, because
Yeah.
it it was shot really beautifully, because like you said, there was a kind of a darkness or a bleakness about it, and even in the daylight, you still felt that,
Yeah.
even when it's sunny outside, and they're at the beach or the river, wherever the thing, or lake, and you still felt all that stuff. So yeah, hats off to the filmmakers on that one. That was great.
That's exactly right. When the sun is out and she's laying in the pool, right? In the
Yeah,
first shot, she's looking up and there's blue sky. You don't see the sun in this. I don't. I don't remember ever seeing the sun. They are at the lake. They go to the lake house,
yeah,
and they're laying out on the. I mean, just everything looks cold. Like
yeah. That's what
she's
it is. Yeah,
swimming around in the
but
water.
they're
Water is a big theme in this, and I'm just trying
but
to.
yeah, it looks, sorry to interrupt, but it looks cold, but
Mm-hmm.
they're not, they don't, everything looks cold, but they're not cold. Like
They're not
they're in
cold. Yeah.
shorts,
Yeah.
they're barefoot, they're running at night, and there's no, they're not breathing out cold air. It's just all this stuff that's, I would be like, oh God, it looks cold, but they
Yeah.
don't act like they're cold. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of adds to that dreamlike quality. It's like, okay, well, and also, I don't know if we were going to talk about this later or not, but the aesthetic of everything, they're driving these, like, it has this like 70s feel
Yeah.
to it, but
Yeah.
yet it seems like it's in modern day. And going back to kind of the sun and all that kind of that you don't see, you also don't really see the parents. You see them sometimes, but they're all hanging out at the house, or sleeping on the couch, they're yelling and screaming, but where are the parents at, so
Is that what you were talking about? How it's kind of an old school. Like in Nightmare on Elm Street, the parents are kind of non-existent. In
yeah,
most of the '80s movies
yeah,
that we've talked about, and even the '70s movies, it's teenagers, and there's no adult.
yeah,
There's no
right,
really. They have to. They're on their own.
yeah, yeah. That is kind of one of the things that I noticed that harkens back to these, because this younger sister has a job, her friend have a
Mm-hmm.
job at that ice cream parlor, and it's like, but you look at their house and where they live, and it's like, well, they don't really need to. I mean, it's not that, it's just something that teenagers do. You go get a job, and you go work, and you hang out with your buddies, and whatever. But they have their nights off, and they have all this other things that they can do, So there's that thing that kind of yeah, it ties it back to the 80s. Like another scene at the end, or not at the end, but when her buddy from across the street, Greg, gets it, it harkens back to Nightmare on Elm Street when Nancy's at her house trying to wake
Yep.
Glenn up. Hey, Glenn, Glenn, and so there's all these little things that it goes back to the 80s, but again, it doesn't, the thing that separates it or kind of modernizes it is the idea that there's a little more agency with these characters because they can kind of think a little, they're not, you see that commercial on TV and they're like, let's go hide behind those chainsaws,
Right,
like
right.
they're
That's right.
not doing that kind of stuff. But it just raises the stakes on the horror because yeah, now they're kind of, now it's like you and I of like, oh, there's someone walking. Do you see it? It's just more, I don't want to say realistic, but it's more of a genuine kind of reaction to, the horror that's taking place. Again, hats off to you, man. That was a great suggestion.
I'm really glad you liked it. The Nightmare on Elm Street vibes are huge in this.
Yeah.
Um,
But
the
so is, the Halloween too,
Yep, yep,
with the lady protagonist and
yep. That's right.
yeah,
The opening couple of shots, I really looked at it because now that I'm taking notes for a podcast,
yeah,
I was really just paying attention to the first like 20 minutes and just really noticing why the director chose the shots that David Robert Mitchell, who wrote this movie,
yeah, uh-huh.
why he chose why he made the decisions that he did. And there is a panned scene of a hopscotch drawn in chalk on the sidewalk. And the first thing that came to my mind, I've seen this movie 40 times, and the first thing that comes to my mind when I see that hopscotch is 1, 2,
1,
Freddy's
2,
coming
Freddy's
for
coming
you.
for, yeah,
And I was like, I don't think I noticed that before. Why is it in there? There's no
yeah,
kids playing hopscotch on this street. There's no
yeah,
kids even playing with chalk on this street.
yeah.
Why is that there? Is this in front of their house, or is it in front of the buddy's house across the way, who Jay is screaming at him because the entity. And by the way, for the entity, and I think we had talked about this. This is it's passed along through sex. Does it make it an incubus slash succubus?
Probably. That's
That
what I
where
was
this
thinking.
comes from? I don't know. I
Well, it also, and this kind of hints to the ending part, which we'll get to.
Right.
But if it kills you, then it goes after the last person that gave it to you and goes
It
down the
just goes
line.
right down the line.
Right. So there's really, no really escaping it because if you give it to somebody and they don't know and it takes them out right away, it's like it's back to you,
Yeah,
So
within a couple of days. I mean,
yeah,
and this trick is tried in this movie.
right.
They're like, well, I'm just going to go swim out to this boat where these three guys are hanging out and conceive. We don't see it happen, but conceivably, she has sex with all three of these guys.
Oh,
And
is that what it is?
what she
I
remember when
didn't.
she's got the
Yeah.
cat on her arm and she
Yeah.
swims out and she passes it along because she was like, well, I just got to pass it along to people I don't care about.
Yeah.
And because they're expendable at this point. But then eventually the problem is you're never going to not be looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
Once you've got it, this is the rest of your life is going to be.
Yeah. Right.
You're always going to be looking over your shoulder so that you can keep passing it along, or you can go to you saw the streetwalkers that were there in Detroit.
Yeah.
They got it passed along to them at some point. I mean, it was alluded to that, just go to somebody who's just going to have sex 20 more times tonight and then the problem's solved. But no, the problem's not solved. The problem's
Right.
never going to be solved.
Yeah, because I think, and then you go back to the beginning when she gets it and the guy is telling her, "Look, I'm only doing this to show you so you believe me."
Right.
Like that was a good move. I mean,
Yes.
it's borderline, well, not borderline. It is assault, but I mean, in this position, it's like you have to do something to
it's
to
a
to, to
it's a
convince these people.
that's
Yeah.
it's a nightmare legally. Isn't that attempted murder? You know what's going to happen, and yet you pass it along. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the selfishness of the characters,
Right.
that knowing that they've now cursed somebody else, but then as soon as that person's gone, that's coming for me next.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing that I got when he was kind of not begging, but he was like, "Listen, just give it to me. I can handle it." And then when he goes and he's driving by those streetwalkers, it's like, okay, that's a great idea, but you
Oh, you
don't
mean
really have time to
the
explain
friend
it to him. What was that?
Paul, right? The
Paul? Yeah,
buddy,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, who's had a they were each other's first kiss, and he's hanging out at the house all the time, and he's clearly got a crush on Jay
yeah,
and
yeah,
in love with her, and he's like, just give it to me, and then I'll just.
yeah.
What are you gonna do, dude? Move to there's cliffs on both sides. You're not gonna pass to New Zealand. What do you do? You know what I mean? There's no answer. There's no good answer to this problem.
Yeah, I think that was good. I like that.
Are you gonna live on the moon?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that's why I think that dude at the beginning was smart about it in terms of letting her know, look, this is what happens. This is what you got to do about it. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what else to tell you. Buy him out later. Peace. But because if he goes to those streetwalkers, like that was good planning short term. But if you don't explain to them what's going on, they're going to see someone walking up to him going, "Hey, what's up?" And
Oh
then
yeah,
bam,
no,
and
that's
then they're
yeah,
dead. And then it's back to you,
yep,
it's back to whoever.
yep.
So I think that's, I don't know, man. That's kind of the thing that, as I think about it more, it just creeps me out, man. And then it's just kind of sleepless nights, and for a minute, and when I was going to sleep last night, for a minute, I was like, wait, did someone just brush up against my back?
So it stays with you, right?
Yeah, it does, man.
That's a great. That's why I dig this. Not because I mean you don't get a monster. The
Right.
monster changes every time it turns the corner. It looks like something else,
Yeah.
and the there's a pan shot in the kitchen, and there's a family photo on the
Yeah.
wall, and
That's
it
what I was going to
looks
ask
like
you. Yeah.
grandparents with
Yeah.
a little kid. The first time Jay sees the whatever it follows, whatever she sees the old woman from that picture,
Oh,
and
okay.
she's wearing like a a
Like a hospital, like a
nightgown or
moo or
something
something.
like a moo
Yeah.
right? And she's just lumbering across the quad, and then she's like, I mean, now the game is on, right? She
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this thing has been walking towards you. Kind of connects the dots. I've been like all over town. I've been home. I've been over here, and this thing's just been walking towards me. And then it's just suddenly in the hallway. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like it's time traveling, and it's not cheating in any way. We don't see
Right.
the thing cheat. Like, oh, you went 3 counties away. Well, now I can just zap myself over to there, and I'll be right
Right.
around the corner. It's just this is the pace it goes. It's the looming death of all
Yeah.
this, right?
Well, that's what they. Or go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's we're all gonna die. I hate
Yeah.
spoiler. We are all going to die. And this really kind of touches on that. Like you can run, but you can't hide. No matter
Yeah.
what you try to do, no, you can try to manipulate the game somehow. You can try to pass it off like you can fight it this way and you can fight it this way. But the inevitability of your death.
Yeah.
This really it's a tough pill to swallow, man.
Well, that's what I was gonna to add to that. That's what I was reading on some of the um not reviews, but just some articles that I found
Okay.
that had you know, them talking about, some critics thought it was about sexually transmitted diseases.
Yeah.
Or a lot of them were talking about it's just about the inevitability of death and how it's
Yeah.
always chasing you. And I felt when I read that, I felt, oh my gosh. And that's the thing too, as well, is that there's all these things that you can, post watch. I was gonna even try and watch it this morning. I had a lot of stuff to do, but I was gonna try and have it in the background
Hmm.
because there's a lot of things that I felt like I need to watch it again just because I feel like there's some things that I probably missed. And one of them was that one where you said that she swam out to the boat. I just thought she went for a swim and she was just looking at the boat guys, making sure that they weren't, going to come out and follow her. And when you said that,
Yeah, she was
it,
like, well, I mean, and now you have to live with that conscience. Now that when you see the thing come around the corner again,
yeah,
you know those guys are dead.
yeah, yeah,
And it's my fault. I didn't have. I bought myself what, 2 days, 3 days. It didn't take the creature long because it wasn't very long until there it was. There it was coming around the corner.
yeah,
It comes out onto the, because she has her, the way he shot that scene where she's got the cast on. She looks at these three guys out there on their boat, and she takes the t-shirt off, and then she takes
uh-huh.
the pants off, and now she's in her swimsuit, and she walks out into the water. And the next shot you get is her driving with her cast all
Yeah,
it bloated from it
yeah,
been underwater. So
right,
the way I see it, and is she swam out there, and probably no words needed to be said. Not a lot of dialogue in this movie, right? We don't. I mean, all the dialogue is straight up telling you what is happening. It's not a
yeah,
big mystery. The
yeah,
the scariest part is, as you're watching this movie, you're like, what would I do?
right. Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's constantly, as the title implies, it's always following. So even when you don't see it, you know that it's coming.
It's
And
coming.
so, how do you relax? They try to take her out to the cabin, and they try to have a normal day, but you can tell that it's just weighing on her as the movie progresses. You see it's like Frodo carrying the ring. It's like this thing of it's just
It's a
wearing her
burden.
down.
It's a huge burden.
Yeah, and the thing about when they're and it comes up behind her when they're at the beach, and it's coming up behind her, and up until then, I was like, well, I don't know if do other people see it? I mean,
No,
do they not
yeah.
see it?
And then you see her hair go up, and that's
Yeah,
when her friends are like, "Oh no,
yeah,
she gets yanked out of the chair by nothing. As far
yeah,
as they know, it's nothing, and now it's on,
yeah,
right? Right, and that scene is the only scene where they run into the barn, and you're like,
yeah,
"Don't run into the barn. Let's hide behind the chainsaws." Just like you said, where you're like, "Oh, don't go into the barn.
yeah,
Don't ever go into." He tells her, "Don't go into any place that only has
yeah,
one exit. You need an escape route for the rest of your life. You need an escape.
yeah, yeah,
I don't care if this thing's 50 people up the chain. You're constantly looking over your shoulder. I
yeah,
don't care. I
yeah,
mean, and all the people that we see who this thing gets is 20. There's no adults getting it. There's no,
yeah.
right? So maybe somewhere down the line, somebody has died of old age that they successfully got away from. I mean, the first thing I think is just get on a plane. I mean, you just have to move out of the country,
Yeah. Well,
right?
I think it'll just inhibit somebody that's close to you, or not close to you, like in terms of emotionally, but physically. That's what, because that's what I asked you when we were talking about it. Was it Nightmare on Elm Street or
Mm-hmm.
some movie? And I was like, well, can't they just fly to like Fiji? And
Mm-hmm.
what is it going to swim? Is it going to take a plane?
We don't
But
know.
from this, I just assumed that it just takes the form near you, so you can go where you can go to Antarctica. It's gonna find. It's just gonna, get be there because it's a it's a supernatural form. It's not like
Is it walking
it
with
needs
under? Is
people
it?
around.
I'm like the planet Earth is not safe for you
Right.
anymore.
Right. Yeah.
The one, and I haven't done a lot of research, like, you know, what's the right way to do this? I've seen them, like I've typed it into YouTube, and there's a bunch, because it's, you know, it's a 10-year-old movie, so there's people who have their theories, and they're like, I know what to do. No, you don't. First of all, this isn't real, guys. And then second, just they the one theory that I saw was that you need to get, like, in the Terminator. Terminator's a good. He's coming.
Yeah.
There's no bargaining with it. He doesn't feel emotion. Does not feel right. Again, Terminator, very scary.
Yeah.
And it will not stop ever until you are dead. That's its motivation.
Yeah.
We're never going to know why. There is a sequel. There is a sequel coming out, and I hope.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, it's called. He's written a sequel called They Follow, and I'm almost like, you didn't have to do this, bud.
Yeah. Well, I think everything nowadays, when it's successful, just becomes like an IP that you have to duplicate. You know,
right? But he did this independently. I didn't realize this was an independent movie.
Yeah. No, it was only 1.3 million they made it for.
Is that right?
Million.
Because there's that's okay. I mean, they had to go to a gymnasium at a school. I mean, they filmed it in Detroit. Half the places that they're filming it in are abandoned buildings in, like, downtown Detroit. And now Detroit doesn't look like this anymore. But in 2014, this was very realistic. We've all seen 8 Mile. You guys have seen 8 Mile, right? And that 8 Mile was filmed in 2002. And Detroit has, after the big three left, Detroit, all those houses within the first, like, mile radius of downtown Detroit, if you took your little Google Street View guy and dropped it anywhere in any of those, they're abandoned buildings.
Yeah.
There's just, they're all 2-story with a basement, lots of square footage, and just nobody lives on this block. And there's just house after house after house. And that's terrifying enough as it is, right? Abandoned buildings have a creepy vibe to them.
Yeah.
This obviously has a very creepy vibe to it, where even in the neighborhood where there are people and the guy mowing his lawn, there's one guy raking leaves, you don't really see people. It's very sparse. There's not huge crowds of people. The most people that we see is in that movie theater in the beginning. And they play the game. They play what do we call it? The trade game. And so here's one. Sorry that we're kind of just stream of consciousness thing. But the guy who passes it on to Jay sees the thing that's coming towards Jay. If it's wearing clothes, it's always wearing white. It's wearing the color white.
For Jay?
For Jay. That's how, because we're seeing the thing through Jay's eyes, right?
Yeah,
She's the main character. And when we see the thing, but when they're sitting in the movie theater and they're playing the trade game, he turns around and he says, the girl in the yellow dress.
Yeah.
And we don't see the girl in the yellow dress.
Yeah.
And that's when he realizes, she's like, there's no what girl in the yellow dress? There's no girl in the yellow dress. And he goes, okay, you know what? I don't feel so good. My tummy hurts. Let's get out of here. So he sees yellow. So it's different for him than it is for her.
Yeah.
And I really dig that part of it too, where there's no rules.
Right. Yeah.
So
and it works despite not knowing the rules, you know.
And maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't connect the dots because he maybe just very recently got this thing, because he sees that girl in the yellow dress and then the camera shoots and there's an empty doorway and there's no girl in the yellow dress, and then he realizes, oh, it's here. It found. Yeah. And we never see it. We never see what he sees. We only see what Jay sees, which is also like, if say this were real, What would you see
Right.
versus what would I see?
Yeah.
It says it could be nobody. It could be somebody that you love. It can appear as anything. There's elderly. The only like adults you see are the thing coming, the old lady crossing the quad, which is
Yeah.
creepy enough as it is because it's just
Yeah. Well, it's just lumbering.
it's
And
just
there's
lumbering.
also
Oh, yeah,
and there's also moments where it's sprinkled throughout the film where they'll just be going through a scene, and in the background you'll see somebody
you'll
walking
see
toward them,
something, and you
and
know,
then it just
right,
cuts to another scene, and you're like, because it like when they go to the school to find what's his name, Hugh.
right. You see
Yeah,
it.
I
You
think
see
that.
a girl walking across the quad
Yeah,
wearing a white shirt, and you're like,
and
there it
yeah,
is.
and then it just cuts, so you're like, oh shit,
They got
like
away.
yeah,
It was that
and
close.
yeah, that's yeah. I mean, I was truly impressed with this film because just of those little nuances that
Yeah.
they would add to certain scenes. So you're already on edge. And even when they go to Hugh's house, all of them, and they're talking to him, and he's like, "Do you see her?" And it's just some girl like coming home from soccer practice or
Yeah.
whatever practice it was.
She's got a
And she
ball,
kind of looks
soccer
over
ball
and
under,
she's
and
just
they're
like,
all, yeah. She,
"Yeah."
what?
So, but I think you know, um, the idea that again, why this all seems to work because we're talking about it like there's action in each scene, but these are just key moments, you know, big moments, but they happen in between these scenes. There's these again, it's the kind of framing, the direction, the framing of a scene that fills, you know, because you've already seen, like I said before, it's in the mundane, it's in it's the horror can kind of come up anywhere at any time, and so the scenes are just filled with them hanging out. You know, they're playing cards or they're, you know, or they're watching TV, which by the way, it's like, you know, the 70s aesthetic. They have the TV on top of the TV. Did you ever have that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, you know, it's just kind of these things that they're going through. They're driving or they're, you know, talking, they're going through an old house and they're talking about this or that, or some guy's checking out this girl's legs while she's like looking for some, just these little moments. And you know, she looks out the window, she sees some guy walk by and it's like, but
That's
that's what,
right. That's right. And when
yeah,
they're in that abandoned house where
yeah. And
this is the house I've been to his house, but I've never been in. And
yeah,
that's the house where she's like,
yeah,
oh, so this guy, Hugh, is that what you think his
yeah,
name is?
yeah,
He had done enough, like he created a backstory for himself to start dating Jay.
yeah,
Where he's like, oh, I live here, but you know, my parents were really poor, and you don't want to go inside, kind of thing.
yeah,
Kind of like a Goodwill Hunting, where it's like,
yeah,
oh, you don't let
yeah,
me, you never, you know, I'm never going to meet your brothers and all this. But he had done enough where he had made himself a backstory. So, but then he's confused. Okay, so you bring a good point where he doesn't connect the dots that the girl in the yellow dress at the theater is it follows. So there's a little bit of a
what do you
how
mean?
together is this guy?
Oh, I got you.
You know what I mean? Like he's 21. We understand that he's 21.
Yeah,
He's got earrings, and that's really all we know about the guy. He looks a little Rob Thomasy. He's got a
yeah.
little Rob Thomas to him. He's all it's
It's 3 a.m. I'm only lonely.
uh,
He is a singer, actually. I think he's a singer. His name is Jake Weary, and
Oh, I
it
was
says here.
concerned that you didn't know who Rob Thomas was. Yes, he is a singer
Oh,
from Matchbox 20, but then he's also had a solo project. But please continue. What's it? The actor is the singer?
yeah,
Oh,
Jacob
he should have
Weary.
sung in this, man.
He's
That
an
would have been
actor,
great.
musician, singer, songwriter, and music producer. Um,
Multi-talented.
yeah, and has the looks to go with it, man.
Yeah, he's a
And
cute guy, right?
yeah,
You can
good
see
looking
why,
guy.
and he tells her when they track him down. Great investigative skills here, by the way. They go and they go to the house where she says, "Well, this is where I never went in, but I've been to his house, and
Yeah.
then they go in there, and it's like the walls are all taped up. There's like Playpen magazine on the.
Yeah.
There's a mattress on the ground with just like nasty like tissues where it's pretty obvious what we're
Yeah.
setting. I don't know if I was like, why is that in here? Did he think that he could just like rub it out of himself?
Maybe.
Why was there just so many stacks of pornos and nudie magazines and tissues all over the place? It's disgusting. And meanwhile, the kids, Paul is sitting on this bed. Where at one point wouldn't he just be like, well, I'm gonna go ahead and move. Is he thinking he can just get rid of it? He's who knows. There's so much to consider
Yeah.
because he's gone through this hell. He's still going through the hell because he's up in his room. They find out that there's a picture of him with his girlfriend in high school, and I believe the girl in the photo is the one who we see get killed on the beach with her leg bent backwards in the opening scene.
Oh, really?
I think so.
See, these are things that I have to watch it again because these are things that I missed. And
then she also is one of the girls who's coming. I think she was the girl that was in the kitchen with the topless girl.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Then also the same girl who was on the beach that pulled Jay's hair. That they were originally when the whole team of friends is just all realizes that this isn't. She's not messing around. This is actually happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities in this creature takes whatever form it wants. What was what was the creepiest version of the creature that you texted me yesterday when you were watching it, and you're just all, oh dude, the girl in the kitchen, the topless girl in the kitchen, and she's dripping, she's water is running off of her, right?
I thought she was peeing. Yeah. Okay.
And she's dripping wet. Water, again, a huge theme in this movie. Not super clear why. I think
it's the dream part of it to make it more. I feel like that's what it was. I mean, water is usually associated with. I mean, when you dream of water or something, I can't remember what it means in your dreams, but
you're drowning. You drown in your dreams.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I mean, I can't confirm or deny that, but
sure.
But I think it was the tall guy.
The tall guy
that freaked me out.
Dude, tall guy is not okay. And he shows up. He comes into the hall. He comes around the corner, and again, one of those tropes where it's like, "Don't open the door! Don't open the door!" And then they open the door. And it's the sister or it's the friend that was
the friend.
Like, what? There's nothing out here. And then tall guy
comes behind her.
You, and he's got a duck to get in. This is a literally 7'7" tall.
Yeah.
I'm all, is that Bobon? Tall guy was super creepy. Didn't like it. The first time you see him, there's not any jump scares in this.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. And jump scares are cheating, or the cat going and then flying away. We could do better than this.
It's their version of jump scares. I mean, it's not really a jump scare, but it's kind of the closest thing. And he makes an appearance again at the boathouse when they're out there.
That's right. You see him through the window. He walks by, but he was the girl. So tall guy was the girl who had just pulled the hair. And then tall guy walks by, and then the boy comes through
from the boat? Is he one from the boat?
The boy was we see the boy's head come through the hole in the door, and it's the only thing this creature ever says. He like hisses at them.
Yeah.
It's the only audible verbal thing that this monster, we'll just call it a monster.
Yeah.
Says as he comes through in the dark eyes. They got the dark around you got the Batman.
Is he from the boat? From the three guys on the boat?
This was the skinny little kid who comes through. She goes back to the boat later and passes it along to those
Oh, that's later. Okay.
it's later in the movie, but the boy who comes through that hole in the door, and then they run, and then they
Yeah.
get out, and then the next time we see it, it's the girl again. So it was three different things just
Yeah.
in that one scene. It was three
Yeah.
different things, and they shoot it. They shoot it, and you see blood. You see it gets shot in the head, and the blood flies, and then it falls to the ground, and then within like a beat later, it just gets up.
Yeah.
I like that you can hurt it, but you're buying yourself 5 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
As you're wasting your time, you're wasting bullets for one,
Right.
and you're wasting time. If you're close enough to shoot it, you're way too close to this thing.
Yeah.
It's going to get you. I believe it's the same girl, and I don't know that the idea is like with the thing that it assimilates into things that it's already killed before. There's no rule to it. The little boy who pokes his head through the hole in the door was the kid that rides up on his skateboard in one of the earlier scenes out in front of the house.
Oh, really? Okay. I remember that. Yeah.
The little skinny kid, he's like
Yeah.
13 maybe. That's the same. That's the boy who pokes
And
his
then
head through the wood because it's trying to. I mean, if you're say, okay, what if you are this thing? First of all, your motivation is, I just got to kill everything that. It's kind of Friday the 13th
yeah.
or Nightmare
Yeah.
on Friday the 13th, in that Jason's pissed because Jason wants to kill everybody who was humping while he was drowning, right?
Right.
We understand
Right.
his motivation.
Yeah.
I'm just going to kill them all. Everybody that's at this camp, I'm assuming you were humping and you let me drown. Unacceptable. You all have to die. This thing is, if you are this thing, you are going to be as terrifying as you can, because when you get scared, you freeze up.
Yeah.
And it's
Like
probably
me.
tired of walking. It's been walking a long time.
Well, let's talk about the ending. Let's talk
Yes.
about how this ends
Let's
because
talk about how it ends.
yeah, because I think that
Because they think they got it, right? They electrocute it in the
they
pool.
go to this they go to the pool, and when they're leaving they see that naked guy standing on the roof.
Yeah.
And then they go to this pool, and
The naked guy on the roof was not okay either, by the way.
yeah.
I didn't like that. It was like they're leaving, and now she's already passed this thing on to the guys in the boat.
Yeah.
And there's the naked guy on the roof, and the look on her face is, okay, so those guys are dead.
Yeah.
And how is this thing on my roof now?
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that I have a question about the end is that her dad at the end? Because she says something to the effect of like, I don't want to tell you who the
Yeah, it's like,
here.
what does it look like? And she says,
Uh-huh.
I don't want to say. We don't know what her dad looks like.
Oh man.
It's a guy it's like a middle-aged guy.
Yeah.
It could be the coach, the swimming coach of the high school, wherever they are. That's a great question. I don't know. I don't think they really focus in on what the thing is for you to connect those dots.
Yeah.
It's all super vague, and I don't know that it's that important, but maybe with a sequel they will connect those dots, and I almost hope they don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're in an age of sequels. We're kind of in the age of I've heard this term thrown about is the marvelization of movies, where everything has to you have to kind of create the universe, and then when you make more movies, it has to tie into that original, which I love Marvel, a lot more misses lately than hits, but I'll still, if it looks fine, I'll check. Like I'm going to check out Falcon or the new Captain America with Harrison Ford. I'll check that out because it's got Red Hulk but I think
it does.
Yeah, it's got Red Hulk.
So they're getting into the whole, like, we have Venom, the final Venom movie,
Yeah, which I
just
will
getting
not
into the
watch.
whole symbiote and um,
Which I heard was horrible.
and Null,
Well, I think
the
Sony just
Null
doesn't know.
character, which
Sony just doesn't know how to make comic book movies. I mean, they kind
right,
of lucked out with the first kind of, I think, two Spider-Man movies in the early 2000s. But after that, they just kind of put out trash. I mean,
yeah.
the I mean, I'm not a big fan of them. I went and saw the first Venom, but I was disappointed because they made him this kind of hero or anti-hero, whatever, but they made him more, I don't know. In the comics, he was just, vile. But
No,
anyways,
yeah, from the Spider-Man comics, when I mean the symbiote, and we're getting off way off
yeah,
topic, but I have thoughts on this.
that's
The
fine.
symbiote connects to to Spider-Man on the Foreigner planet originally when he's up
Yeah,
there
the
with
Battle
the
World.
Fantastic
Yeah,
Four
from Secret Wars. Yeah,
from Secret Wars, and it's from a different planet. And I understand that they've trying to connect those, but Peter or Spider-Man gets the thing knocked off of him, and they did this in the third Spider-Man
uh-huh.
where he had the black suit, and it gets knocked off of him and onto Eddie Brock, who's down because the bells
Yeah,
were
yeah,
like it allowed it to detach from himself. That's straight from the comic book.
right.
That's how
And
Eddie
then
Brock became
right.
Venom.
Well, I think the Fantastic Four helped them get it off because it was the high frequency of the bells in the movie, but they had this little chamber where
They did have a chamber. That's right.
yeah, where they put Spider-Man in it and then blasted him with high frequency noise, and then
Well,
it came off.
the bells were the ones. I think the bell in the comic book was what clued
Yeah,
Peter into going. Wait a minute, this didn't like
yeah,
those bells.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So what are we going to do about that? And he goes to
yeah,
Mister Fantastic, who's the
yeah.
smartest man in the world, right?
Right.
Who's played by James Mason in this movie. What we need to do. Uh, we
I was
need to
wondering
get the
who out of
bells.
all my friends had a James Mason impression. I'm glad I found it.
I stole it from Eddie Izzard, but yes, what we need to do is we need to get the frequency. That's as good as it gets, man.
That's awesome. It's good enough for me, man.
Okay,
That was
good.
excellent. I'm
So
working on mine
anyway,
because
back to the end.
yeah.
So
Okay.
they set up this pool. She's in the middle of the pool. Once the it follows goes into the pool, they're going to throw hair dryers and radios and TV sets and everything into it and flip the switch, and that's going to kill it off. And
Yeah.
then go. What do you? And then
Well, yeah.
go
Well,
ahead.
no, and then what they start, the dude pulls out a gun, starts trying to shoot it. She's trying to point it out. It's walking around the exterior, and then he shoots it, and it falls into the pool, and she tries to get out, and it grabs her, and it's holding her under, and he starts shooting again and hits it a couple times, and then
Mm-hmm. The water turns
he
red.
asks, yeah, he asks her, is it dead? And she looks, and it's the water is just turning into this blood kind of red. Cut to a nice day in the suburbs, and they're walking down the sidewalk.
They say nothing. They're
Yeah,
holding hands, walking home,
and then there's somebody walking behind that
and
comes up and starts walking behind them,
and
and then
it's
they cut
walking
to
behind
black.
him.
They're dipped to
That's
black. Yeah, and
that.
that's dude. And for me, that kind of I saw a couple of reviews, which I'll get to. I'm going to read a couple of these reviews, but
Good.
um, they were saying, oh, it didn't stick the landing or it missed the mark and this, and I just thought, well, I mean, you can't, like kind of what we were talking about with the Penguin. It's like you can't really. You have to have something. I think a good film, whether it's horror or drama or comedy, whatever. I think a good film was going to leave the viewer to its own kind of devices in
Absolutely.
some aspect.
Your viewer is more intent. Yeah. Give your
Yes,
viewer, give the audience some credit.
yeah,
Yes.
and let
Agree.
them have their own little opinions about it. Because for me, I thought, okay, well, it infected someone or whatever. Maybe it didn't die and it's still after them, or maybe not. Maybe it was just some dude that was walking behind them. And that's to me is great, especially with a film like this. It's kind of the ideal ending because um, I don't know. I mean, I think a happy ending is gonna kind of not negate, but it's going to kind of um, I don't know what the word is, but it's going to kind of like if it was a happy ending, I would have been like, okay, cool, like because you build throughout the movie, you build up all the suspense and this kind of dread, and you know, it works in the Lord of the Rings, but I don't think it would work here to be like, woo, we got rid of it, in a freeze frame ending or
Freeze frame of
something.
the high fives. No, it won't work at all. The ending is perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
That's
so
what
too.
brings you back. You're like, they leave the gym, and you're absolutely right. They're walking down the street. Now they're together. Now, conceivably, they're a couple now.
Yeah,
Like the boy, Paul, and Jay, like now, like all Paul wanted was to be with Jay, and now they're
yeah,
together. Aw, that's really
yeah,
what the hell? And then
yeah,
that's it. It's behind you, like,
yeah.
yeah, no.
God,
No,
God. Yeah, that's
all right,
it's
cut.
the perfect ending.
We'll be right back. I
All
love.
right, well, let me get
Thank
to
you.
some.
I'm so glad you liked the ending because that's it. And there's no
Yeah,
words are said. There's a guy again, like there's somebody with a leaf blower, and then
yeah,
all you hear is the leaf blower blowing, and just again with the mundaneness of it. It's just a Tuesday morning,
yeah,
and
yeah.
there's a terrifying monster that will turn you into a pretzel. Oh God.
Oh,
Okay, so
well, I got a couple of reviews I wanted
reviews, yeah. Let's
just
hear
to
them because
kind of
I've done no like backstory research. I try to keep myself as virgin on this as I can. It's
yeah.
just because every time I watch it, I'm just like, still to the again. What would I do? What do I do? What's the right answer? There's no right answer. The answer is
Well, I
there's
think
no
this
right
kind
answer.
of highlights. I think it kind of highlights the whole the audience that exists today of TikTok and Instagram Reels, and not to disparage that, but the idea that the attention span is a little more shorter than it used to be,
Yeah, and this is
and
an
therefore,
hour and 50 minutes. It's a long movie
yeah. And this
for
guy,
horror.
so
It's almost two
yeah, so
hours.
this guy says it follows as a unique film indeed, but I can't say I truly enjoyed it. Um, the original premise and the refusal of modern horror gimmicks deserve some praise, but it felt too long, masturbatory, and slow paced for its little content. A lot of disposable scenes and too vague outcomes, which I think is the why it's such a good movie,
Yeah,
because it's not, you know,
right.
of just endless kind of senseless killing. And, once it establishes how it kills, that's the MO for a lot of horror movies is like once you learn how they kill or what the monster is and how they kill, then it's just off to the races and the killing and the gore and all this kind of thing. And I think a movie like this, in order to build up the suspense and the dread and the creepiness, you have to have those silent moments. And again, I don't want to keep harping on this, but it's the horror that's in the mundane, it's in the everyday things,
Hmm.
and it's not hiding in some deep dark corner. It's going to be walking across the quad when you're in school. It's going to be when you're at the beach. It's going to be walking up to you. Just
Great point.
right. And so I
This is why women choose the bear.
yeah, exactly. Great analogy. That was awesome. Um, Something you said, tag, you're it. Greetings again from the darkness, known for an endless stream of copycats and retreads. The horror genre periodically surprises us with a dose of originality. Heck, we don't even ask horror filmmakers for anything too revolutionary. Just give us something we haven't seen a few dozen times before, which I get to. It's a
Yep,
great point,
I'd agree with
you
that.
know, because I think, again, it's original. It takes from the horror movies of before. And I think I was reading an article that said that the director even kind of was inspired by the Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street movies for a lot of this. And it's true. He kind of takes from that, but he kind of expands on it, and it kind of even improves upon it because again, like I said before, it's not this. Let's go hide behind the chainsaws.
Yeah.
It's more of so. And one more before we go. One more.
All
One
right.
more. This one's a good one. 8 out of 10. This is probably the best horror movie I've seen in the past decade. It follows as a throwback to classic late 70s, 80s horror films and draws many comparisons to John Carpenter's style, which I agree. I think that
There you
the
go.
the use of the kind of wide lens to kind of show what's behind it shows a large area and you're seeing what's behind or what's coming before
Mm-hmm.
they do. I feel like
Agree.
that's yeah, I agree with that
Agree.
one as well.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So I guess with yeah, the feedback that we got before we came on, if you're gonna make this again, who would you cast in it? Do you have any ideas?
Oh. Here's my question to you. Never
Oh,
mind.
yeah, that's right.
If I were to cast it again, well, I don't know. I really like this cast. I think with what the movie is trying to do and how it's trying to scare you,
Yeah.
that picking the her name is Micah Monroe is the lead.
Oh, the
Um,
lead is let's
I
see,
don't know
it
how you pronounce
is
her name. It's Mika or
Micah
Micah.
Monroe. Yeah,
Micah
yeah, yeah.
Monroe.
You're right. Yeah,
She's got a Brittany. She's got a Brittany Murphy look to her in
yeah,
the
she does.
with the big eyes and everything,
Yeah.
and that wasn't lost on me in that she was also in 8 Mile.
Oh,
Uh,
was she? Oh,
Brittany Murphy
oh,
was in
Brittany
8 Mile, and
Murphy
this
was
is
it?
and that was set in Detroit, and so is
Yeah,
this. And I
yeah.
wondered if that had anything to do with it.
Well,
Uh,
they lived off of 12 Mile, right? And
yes,
they
yeah,
they reference
they're
8
way
Mile.
up north
Yeah,
of that's right. They're way up north of Detroit, but
yeah.
um, if I were to redo it today, I mean, I don't know. It'd be fun to see the Stranger Things cast run away
Yeah,
from
that's what
this
I was gonna
thing.
say. I was gonna say
But then they're, I don't know. But then
like the
you're
first
putting
season
sex
Stranger
into it.
Cast.
I don't know if I like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I
I'd
would say the
like to,
first season,
I'd like
if
to see
anything.
this as like the Brat Pack. I would remake this with. I would remake this with Lou Diamond Phillips, who's being chased.
Oh, okay.
Demi Moore.
Demi Moore.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'd like to see. I would like to see. Did I say Lou Diamond Phillips?
yeah. Lou Diamond Phillips and Young Guns and Lou Diamond Phillips from La Bamba. Those two Lou Diamond Phillips in this movie.
Oh, the two of them.
That'd be great. I think.
Um, what other horror movies from Detroit
Well,
come to
there was a
mind?
movie that was based in Detroit, but it was also actually filmed in California, which was Mr. Mom.
Oh
Can
yeah,
you see? Yeah, can you see a young Michael Keaton in?
absolutely. And Terry Garr, rest her soul.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's right. Huh? Oh man, that
We just
sucks.
lost Terry Garr. What was it yesterday?
Yeah, yeah. 2 days ago, I think.
A couple days ago.
Yeah.
That was shocking. I was like, oh man, because her Inga in Young Frankenstein is one of my
Roll,
the
roll,
roaring
roll
day.
away.
She
What
was on David
knockers?
Letterman like 50 times.
Yeah, yeah,
She was breathtakingly beautiful.
yeah. I had a crush on her from Mr. Mom when I was a kid.
Oh
I
yeah,
just thought
good.
she was. Yeah, I thought she was the bee's knees. We got to do Mr. Mom. I mean, it hasn't aged well, but that movie for me has so much laughter from it, and
Martin
we got
Mull's
to.
character was amazing in that,
Which
and
one?
Martin
Oh, Martin
Mull.
Mull. Yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah. So,
So
anyways, yeah. Well, I think. Do you have anything to add? Do you have anything you want to
I
say?
was just gonna just wish everybody a really happy Halloween, and make sure you vote if you haven't voted.
Yeah,
This will drop on Monday, which
yeah.
is
Well, probably Tuesday because I'll
oh, so
be.
on election day.
Yeah, because I'll be back from LA on late Monday.
Oh right.
So. I'll
Sorry.
probably wake up Tuesday and edit it and just get it out.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So that'll be not only the election day, but also your boy's birthday.
Which one? Wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, and Eric Bucks is what, the end of the month?
Yeah. It's usually
Yeah.
it's the like 25th.
Yeah.
It's been Thanksgiving before, and I'm like, How's that make you
Yeah.
feel?
I remember that. All right, cool, man. Well, yeah, we'll get this out. I'll get this out as soon as I can on probably Tuesday,
Cool.
and I'll drop some promos. And yeah, so everybody watching, thanks for watching the Gonna See My Friends podcast. I'm Steven, and this is my buddy, best friend Toby Maximus, otherwise
Yes.
known as Toby. And we'll see you again soon. See you guys.
Bye, guys.